the St. Patrick's Day show. We know people like that stuff at Christmas. I will say this. I never should have stopped the Irish line dancing. That thing kept me in great shape. And also, I just want to throw a shout out to Jimmy Himes. He's got a pretty good figure. I hadn't noticed that before, but working on it. Looking pretty good. It's our Selection Sunday show. So grab pen and paper as we talk Tennessee basketball. We're going to have a good idea of who they might play in the NCAA tournament, if they're in, what their seed will be, who they want to play, who they don't want to play, some math later on that will wow you, and some spring football talk, Bruce Pearl rumors, you name it, we got it. Oh yeah, and I think there was a technical foul we'll talk about yesterday. First segment of our show brought to you by our friends at NovaCopy. Folks, they will provide a free cost analysis of your business, your document solutions, your workflow. Give them a call this week. Have them come by. They'll give you a plan that will improve workflow and increase your bottom line. Check them out at novacopy.com, another way to get to know them. If your company has any kind of printing document needs, trust me, they will save you money. And it's a free cost analysis, so don't cost nothing for you to check them out. NovaCopy. All right. Want to welcome in the gang. Glad to have Jimmy Himes from the Sports Animal. Glad to have Mark Pankratz, former UT staff member under Bruce Pearl and Conzo Martin. Bob Hodge, freelance contributor to the Knoxville News Sentinel. Chuck Cavaleris, freelance contributor to The World.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to make seeding predictions for Tennessee a little bit later, check their resume, that kind of stuff. But first, I want to talk about Tennessee making the semifinals, the SEC tournament. Won a game against South Carolina. Well, it was their fifth game in which they had not trailed, fifth straight game, which is remarkable. Then they gave Florida all they wanted yesterday. Played really, really well, especially for 38 minutes. They played a very good game. Defense was great. But the story of the game was Pat Adams' decision to give a technical to Jerron Maimon after Maimon came over and he was demonstrative. Said, this is what he did to me, who knows how he said it, but that's the gist of it. And Pat Adams looked like he enjoyed giving Jerron Maimon the technical. Guys, I'm just going to throw it out to you. Thoughts on the technical foul?
Well, whether or not he deserved the tongue lashing and the technical foul after Jerron committed the foul, Pat Adams needed to realize it was not a good foul call. When you're taught to bump a cutter, Florida's man was cutting back door. Jerron put his body on him, and that's it. He didn't use his hands or anything. And Pat Adams should have realized that he messed the call up. Jerron can't get that flamboyant and make a scene. But ultimately, the technical foul, I don't believe, should have been called.
Let it go. Didn't need to call it. I thought, and in fact, Adams was so excited about calling, he couldn't even get the whistle in his mouth. Like, oh, where is it? Where? But I thought he should have just let that go. It's late in the game. It's a tournament. It's a significant game. I thought it was ill-advised for the official to call it. Yeah, should Maimon not have been that demonstrative? I get that. But I think in that situation, the official should let it go.
And Maimon said after the game that he apologized and he shouldn't have done it. But I agree with Jim and Bob. We've talked about this on numerous occasions. I'm a believer, and I think you are too. Hey, call the game the same way in the last minute as you do the first minute. The rules don't change. If it's a block call in the first, should be a block call at the end. However, technical foul, that's a different beast. That is all up here. So in my view, in that situation, don't call the technical. Warn him, don't give him a technical.
Unless somebody out there is a really good lip reader and can tell what he said. Unless Maimon was calling the official things, calling his mother things, I don't think it should have been a technical. I've seen a lot more demonstrative stuff than that from guys, and they don't get technical fouls for it. Let alone
that
at
one
a
seemed
critical juncture of the game.
That one seemed pretty demonstrative to me.
I mean, he was demonstrative, but you see stuff like, unless he said something to the ref, raising questions about his bark record.
Sure.
Other than that, no technical.
And Pat Adams is two things you don't want a referee to be: inconsistent and ego. He has got a big ego. He wants people to notice him. On the previous possession, Maimon was undercut, hit the floor hard, and nothing was called.
Go ahead.
I don't think Pat Adams should be allowed to referee tournament basketball.
Oh, there's talk about him being in the Final Four selection. Now, people don't like these guys. Ted Valentine's a guy that everybody hates, but he always gets big assignments. So he must grade out well when they're grading them. But he did look like a guy with an ego yesterday.
Well, and then the intentional foul at the end of the game. I mean, they go to the monitor for that. And the kid after the game, Wilbekin, says that he did hit him in the face.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
And so, I mean, but Pat Adams is a well-established, a well-renowned official throughout college basketball.
All right, officiating overall. officiating overall. Tennessee, it really wasn't that big of a disparity in fouls call. A lot of Vol fans are upset about the officials. I look at it this way. Did you get all the calls? No. But you score 14 points and a half? I think that had more to
Exactly.
do with the loss. The
do
Naaman
too.
thing hurt. But when you score 14 and a half, don't blame the officials. I mean, that was a
Well,
bad call, but don't blame the
I
officials.
blame Florida's defense a lot.
Yeah.
And Tennessee shot selection. Tennessee, I thought, in the second half, they didn't beat the press as quickly as they did the first half. Therefore, when they got into their offense, they seemed to rush it. They took too many shots, I thought, that were forced inside 10 seconds on the clock. And I thought that hurt them. I thought the shot selection, Florida's defense, the press, all of that contributed.
Yeah, and Florida's a second half team, and they did the same thing to Missouri the game before. But like Jimmy said, a couple times we had a chance to attack pressure and go get an easy look like we did in the first half, and we didn't do that. I think their double team is quicker than any other double team that we faced all year, and that kind of got us going in a different direction and forced us to shoot more jump shots than we have in the past.
And the thing is, I mean, you got to give, as you're doing, you got to give Florida credit. That team is a fantastic basketball team. I take that one. You go in, and yes, it's another top 50 loss for Tennessee, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But at the same time, if the selection committee is sitting there watching that game, heck, I think that worked well for Tennessee. I don't think that loss hurt Tennessee because I'm guessing the selection committee is probably sitting there debating that technical call too. It's been national news. You got to give credit to Conzo Martin and this Tennessee team, not only for yesterday, but for turning this thing around the last 3 weeks. It's remarkable. He went from hot seat to one of the hottest teams in the country.
I think Tennessee looks like a really. If you started the season the selection the last 3 weeks, Tennessee would probably be like a 5 seed. I think they've played that well over the last 3 weeks. And somebody said, well, they're playing bad basketball teams. But they're beating bad basketball teams like a good basketball team beats bad basketball teams.
And
You can only play who you can play.
And Missouri's top 50, and they schooled Missouri.
And Florida may be the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Should be.
number, yeah. So that stands up pretty good too.
Okay, very good. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Tennessee's resume. We're also going to talk with this man right here. He's been over with UT's staff. He's also been a player at Wisconsin Milwaukee on Selection Sunday. What is it like? Fans sit here and bite their nails. What's it like for a bunch of guys whose entire life revolves around a bracket? We'll talk about that next. Still got tons to come on the show. Come on back on the Sports Source.